New research published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology has shown one of the underlying reasons behind anti black bias among white America in this country. Now, this research was conducted across 5 different studies. It showed that this bias is in part driven by the perception of black men as a threat. These findings actually supplement other assumptions about racial bias and highlight the importance of understanding the nuances of how individuals unconsciously perceive different racial groups. I want to give a big shout out to the site Post, psypost.org, for bringing the light to this study. Recent events have underscored the devastating consequences of anti-black bias, particularly in encounters with law enforcement. Studies have shown that the police apply force against black individuals at a disproportionately higher rate than against other racial groups. In lab studies, when tasked with decisions like whether to shoot, white participants tended to make quicker decisions to shoot armed targets and slower decisions to shoot unarmed targets when those targets are black. This bias extends even to black participants themselves. But is this bias solely due to a stronger dislike of black individuals than other racial groups? Now, they investigated the underlying causes of anti-black bias. They conducted 5 different studies. The first 2 studies, a total of 213 white undergraduate students participated. They were tasked with evaluating various target images as either good or bad when primed by black or white male faces. The target images included threatening, negative, and positive stimuli. These studies aim to distinguish between threat and negativity associated in the context of race. Across studies, participants were quicker to evaluate threatening images as bad, threatening targets as bad, when primed with black rather than white faces. But this did not apply to negative targets. Importantly, the effect was not limited to weapons but extended to other forms of threat. In the 3rd and 4th studies, 445 white undergraduates participated in experiments that involved categorizing emotive faces displayed by black, white, and Asian males as dangerous, negative, or positive. Mouse tracking technology and a novel metric designed by the authors was used to measure at the time it took participants to make these categorizations, providing insights into the decision-making process. In these studies, mouse tracking revealed that white participants began categorizing black faces as dangerous earlier in the decision process, particularly when they displayed anger. This suggests a strong association between black men and threat, which again was not observed for negativity. The 5th and final study involved 206 white undergraduates who assessed threatening and negative target words as dangerous or negative when primed by black or white names, just names. The study aimed to determine whether the perception of the threat outweighed negativity in association with black individuals. This study reinforced the first 4 by showing that white participants were faster to evaluate threatening and negative words as dangerous when primed by black names, further emphasizing the association with black men as threats. Overall, the 5 studies consistently revealed that white Americans automatically associate black men with physical threats. This association was found to be unique to black men and did not extend to Asian men. And they know karate. I'm joking. That is a joke. Please don't cancel me. The studies also indicated that this association with threat was stronger than the association with negative valence when these two concepts were paired in completion. While the studies provided valuable insight into the automatic anti-black bias rooted in perceived threat, there are some limitations to consider. For instance, the participants in these studies were predominantly white undergraduates, which may not fully represent the diversity of the population. I'm sure it would probably been worse. They had some good old boys up in there. The white people they picked were probably the good liberal white folks that y'all love so much. I could only imagine if they got some Jethro Bodine types up in there. Although March recently replicated these findings amongst black Americans, future research in this area should explore the generalizability of these findings to more diverse populations and investigate the long-term implications of these automatic associations. Understanding the mechanisms behind racial bias is crucial for addressing and combating it effectively. This study was called Danger or Dislike: Distinguishing Threat from Negative Valence as Sources of Automatic Anti-Black Bias. The authors of the study were David S. March, Lowell Gartner, and Michael A. Olson. So once again, props to them, and props to the Side Post for bringing this to my attention. Now, who didn't know this already? But I think that's probably the instinct that a lot of us had. At least that was the instinct that I had when I first read this study and I first read this article. And I think it's important because a lot of people don't know this. You know, we live in a world now where it is a battle between propaganda. We're in a propaganda war as much as anything else. That's why the government is trying so hard to regulate social media. You know, they want to regulate Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and there's such a battle over who gets to regulate those things and who gets to push out the propaganda of that, because we already know the mainstream media is pure propaganda and has been propaganda for many years. But now the war is on independent media, independent journalism, social media, and the non-traditional media. And it's important to sort of reestablish these things that for a lot of us seems to be common sense. Yeah, we already know black men are thought of as threatening. But as Noam Chomsky talked about in the intro, we have to continue to do studies like this, and we have to continue to bring light to studies like this, because we have an entire prison system that is predicated on the idea that black men are scary. Black men are scary is the reason that America has 20% of the world's prison population. More than that, I'm sorry, almost a quarter of the prison population in this country. Black men scary is the reason for that. Okay? Like that's the reason. You know. And it is the ability to dehumanize black people that is responsible for many of the policies, like welfare. Like I talk about on this show all the time. I'm sure if you listen to the show, if you're a regular listener, you're probably tired of me talking about Scandinavia and other countries that have a social safety nets that Americans can only dream of, and universal health care and universal college and all these other things. Again, black men scary has been used as a reason that we can't have a social safety net. It's one of the reasons why America is the only first world country to not have universal health care. You know, the idea that black people are to be viewed as a threat is one of the main reasons for the political system we have, the legal system we have, the media that we have, the culture we have, the society we have. And so again, I think it's always important to remind people of the fact that we live in a society that is governed by people who have an inherent bias against us as Black Americans or African Americans or ADOS or FBAs or whatever the hell you want to call us. It is important to reestablish that. Like I said, the study, I hope you guys can read it for yourselves. Danger or dislike, distinguishing threat from negative violence as source of automatic anti-Black bias, by David S. March, Lowell Gartner, and Michael A. Olson. We'll be right back. When we get back, we're going to talk about the consequences of racism. You won't want to miss that. My Country with Scott Cannon, Issues and Answers Friday. We'll be right back after these.